Hello, I'm back for another stream. We're gonna play some Valorant today, a little bit later, I guess. I don't know. And first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on a strat that was brought to me. It's kind of a, let's see, hold on. Let me switch over here. Boom. It's a 2000s USA strat. Very cool. He told me not to mess with the crayon. I don't know if it's picking up. There we go. Yeah, I'm assuming his kids did that. I'm not going to mess with the crayon. You get all the dust out and stuff. So, yeah, that's what I've got. That's what I've got in store for us to work on and enjoy it. I prefer running with no backplate, and you just kind of be a little bit more discreet with where you put your ground. Like this one's nice. It's kind of like just tucked up and just put in between these two springs. It's like perfect to run like this. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of these black springs lately. These are, if I'm not mistaken, they're like the Floyd Rose brand, like medium tension springs. This guy's like running a decent setup here. It's kind of similar to that Floyd Rose setup that I had in here recently. So let's see. As far as the springs go, really cranked here. Like this is like almost all the way in. Maybe a little bit of it. Yeah, there's a little bit of adjustment there, but these springs are stretched out. Probably do good to just add another spring in there. Probably just a regular one, chrome one. And he runs a cover anyway, so I think it'll be fine. Let's find a nice clean one. You do this in. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we're going to take that completely apart, this whole bridge right here, and take it apart, and we're going to do the standard setup stuff, but we're going to do a little extra, because I'm going to take that apart, clean it up. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to stick a little tape. Is the light just too bright right there? I guess so. Is that better? I think so. There we go. What are we doing with this strat? So we're doing a setup, and right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prepare to remove all the saddles on this bridge because I need to clean in there. It's a little gunky, and this is a nice, like, somewhat modern guitar, and it kind of deserves to, be maintained, and that polish is still there. And if the gunk stays on there, that'll turn into oxidation. So we're just going to go in, and this is a nice made in USA, and his only request as far as like cleaning goes is leave the crayon, which I'm totally for that. Like if my son went all over my Strat or like a bass of mine or something like that, I would leave it on there. That's like my style right there. So we're gonna take these guys off. Yeah, let's use this guy. Here we go. So I'm just putting some tape here because I don't want to bump. But now I'm kind of noticing like I can bump right here. So it'd be a good idea to just put another piece of tape. Tape's kind of expensive, but it's somebody's guitar, and that's what the tape is for, just to cover and protect. See, that's way better. All the contact point, that even if I went down, the hitting point would be right where the tape is. So there we go, that's perfect. So we're just going to go ahead and start loosening these guys. And now we want to, actually, that's another thing I want to keep in mind. Let's do that too. So an old technique, I don't know if I think someone taught it to me. I'm sure someone taught it to me. Everything you learn is taught by somebody. And so just kind of like tape them together. This will kind of move and shift and stuff like that, but when they all come out, and the reason why is because these are all kind of set up differently, and they all have their individual heights already, and I'd rather keep them in order as well. So the goal is to completely take them off, and then I'm going to take them off and polish each one. And yeah, it'll take some time, and you'll see the tape's going to move and stuff, but overall the goal stays the same. We'll just kind of like keep everything together. Here we go. I think it's the A string. Yeah, there we go. Oh, we still have the low E. Yes. There we go. And now we're free. We'll leave that spring. Okay, and the reason why I did extra tape is because I'm going to take the one side and wrap it around, and I'm going to take the other side and wrap it around. It's not quite touching. I guess I underestimated, but it's about there. It's going to hold everything together. So we're going to just set that aside. And so we're going to put all of this stuff in a little bin. Okay, cool. Nice. So now we have that completely exposed. I can clean it up. Let's wipe it up. Let's see. Just real quick dry, get the dust off. Yeah, there was already some pitting starting to build up right here on the inside, which is a common spot, you know, and it sucks, but it will happen no matter what. You got to kind of keep the dust out. Now, ways to prevent this. It's kind of tough with saddles like this because they're the block saddles, right? So you can't really get under there. But if you had like the stamped steel saddles, I do like using a paintbrush very often and just stuff in there often, just getting the dust out always after a good polish. So basically get it to a clean point like what I have right here. A mirror finish. There's a couple blemishes here and there because there's some metal on the adjustment screws on the saddles. That's okay. That stuff's going to oxidize over time. That's okay though. What we're going to do is when we put it back together, all of this stuff is going to be oiled up, and there will be a little bit of oil on each one of those saddle screws. And so hopefully that'll relieve some of the friction. But yeah, just running a simple paintbrush, a small one. This is what I like to use for guitar. Big paintbrushes, I like to use them for amps. It keeps all the knobs, like the whole face area, clean, keeps all the dust off. Just run through with a paintbrush real quick. Most times it doesn't even mess with your settings if you're dealing with round knobs on an amp. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. So we got this nice up. There's a little bit of pitting on the inside, but that's okay. That's to be expected. But overall, this was the goal right here, to get this all cleaned up right here. Okay, so these screws, I'm going to spray it in some chemical and let it sit. Now the chemical I'm using is deoxidant. I use it to clean pots and things like that, but I also use it sometimes to clean potentially hardware that still looks good but might have some slight oxidation or something like that. I'll run this because it kills oxidation, not the best, but it kills it pretty good, and it also lubricates. So on hardware, it kind of works great as a cleaning agent. And so I'll let that sit. I'll let that sit for a second, and now we can work on the rest of the guitar, because when I come back, I'm going to just reassemble this. So to respect his wishes, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dust off all the area, and wherever there's an area that there's no crayon, I'm going to hit it with the rag and kind of just polish it real quick. So we've got like a good just dusting of the area. And I'm pretty certain that I've got a clear point of what I don't need to touch. But up here seems to be what's played with, because I'm sure the kids have tried to write up here, it's gotten wiped off. But down here it seems fine. So we're gonna get in there and just wipe off a little bit of friction on this plastic. Here we go. There's a few blemishes there, and that's all from playing. Yeah. And so these pickups look super high, which is kind of typical of a guitar right out of the box. So I'm just going to lower everything. And once we put strings on it, then I'll come back and like re-level it. And I'll go over how I do pickup leveling on a Strat. Here we go. Okay. So from here, I want to cover up the pickups, but because of the special request, I don't want to use the big fat roll of tape. So I'm going to use the thinner roll of tape. And now the purpose of it is I'm going to polish the fretboard. Frets need just a little bit of polishing, but either way it's going to create metal shavings, and I don't want any of that to get near the pickups. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover it up, try and do my best to get it like as close as possible without touching any of the crayon. My goal is for it to not touch the crayon. So let's see. We've got this little spot right here. I've got this little piece of tape. I'm just going to kind of bend the corner, lay it like that. That seems pretty good to me. Okay, and we'll put another little piece and patch it up, and we're done. Okay, now let's do this one right here. It's going to be a little bit closer. Just a small piece, turning the corner. I'm going to lay it down and just make it touch the pickup cover. There we go. And from here it's clean. Is there crayon there? There is. Okay, so I'll just kind of smush that into the screw that's there. And then on this side it's clean. So we'll go there, and then we're gonna cover it up. What we've got left there. There we go. And then the last pickup should be relatively easy. Well, there's some crayon there. I don't want to ruin that. So I'll just start long from here, turn the edge on the pickup cover. Okay. Okay, let's use another piece. Right across the way. Perfect. Okay. That's good for coverage right there. Steel wool. So they'll usually come in like a whole square, kind of like this, like just like a whole square. So what I want you to do is just take that square, like horizontally right there, and just, there's like a grain. You can see it's all like running, like wrapping around. So with the grain, just kind of pull it right in half. And now you've got two squares, so you don't waste it. You know, you could cut it in half. One square could totally do like an entire job if it was like really intensive and you needed to do some polishing work on some carpentry like that. That's a lot. It could go a long way, and you can, you know, wrap it, roll it, and we'll learn that as we go. But so what I like to do is I like to take the guitar off of the workbench, the neck, I mean, off the workbench, and we'll go in an up and down motion like this. And we're just going to get the frets polished. Now, as you go, the reason why we'll start like this is because as you go, it'll really start to expose where you have what I call finger cheese. There'll be this like spots where finger residue and stuff has like gathered up over time or discolored the fretboard. And so what we'll do afterwards is we'll go horizontally right on each edge of each fret. And that's also a process of polishing, because we got to go like one way, run a grain, and then go the other way, oppose that grain, and polish it out. Then afterwards, when we run it with oil and a rag, it's going to come out really, really nice. Okay, so we're just going to keep going. Now, when I go up and down, a lot of people like to just go up and down. I like to kind of go in a little bit of a circular motion, and I like to make sure that I'm going a variation of up and down and a circular motion. Here, I'll show down here. So a variation of up and down and a circular motion. And I kind of switch that out, and I'll come down and clean it. And so the goal is we're going to polish all the frets, but we're also going to polish the fretboard itself. We're running it with some super fine steel wool. So it should take all of this grain. This is like nice. This is nice quality rosewood. Take all that grain and smooth it out. Now this wood is like expanded and contracted over time. So this grain is like, this one in particular is very, I could tell it's dry. There's like these certain porous parts of the grain that weren't as big as they were before. And I could tell there's like distinct dryness. Oil time. So we'll just splotch some on. We'll take a paper towel. We'll fold it until we get a small square. And the reason for that is because this oil will seep right through and you don't want to get it all over your hand. So you use this big chunky square. Plus you don't need a big sheet to like spread out on a fretboard. You know, like what are we using? A handkerchief? No, just a little piece of paper towel and just fold it into a little square. I used to use a sponge, and I had a dedicated sponge for this, so that'll work too. What we're trying to do, this is really dry, so I'm actually going to let this sit for a while with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to just dab it. Instead of like wiping it up and down, we're just going to dab it on, okay? And what we're trying to do is we get full coverage, but we want to get like visually, we want like some texture on there. And what that means is that there's a lot of extra oil on there. And it's going to seep in. Trust me, it'll just seep right in. So what you want to see is like an actual texture coming out from the oil, because you're just dabbing it up and down. There's not like a distinct polishing motion or anything like that. You want to make sure that you get full coverage. So if you have any spots like right on a fret that's like dry, you can just go right back and forth, get them. You want to make sure everything's wet, all wet. None of it's dry. None of it. We don't want any of it to be dry. Here we go. Very good. I'm going to dump these because I just want them to dry out on this rag right here. I'm going to dry out because I'm going to put a different lubricant on here. And so now that we've got that, I'm going to take these saddles and I'm going to clean them individually and just put them right back in order, just one at a time. So I'll start with this one on the bottom. Take this rag. That's looking great. Nice and shiny. Make sure you get the bottom side. See, one of these has rust. It's funny, all of these screws for the saddles look great on this except for one. So that means that there was one really dusty spot that just got trapped. And he probably tried to keep it clean. I mean, like overall, like I would say this guitar is pretty clean. It just is dirty in the typical spot that it'll stay dirty, because not a lot of people will take the time to do what I'm doing, and that's why people pay me to do this, because I'm open to it. Yeah, so the saddle that had the rusty one itself looks kind of rusty, so I'm going to set that one aside, and I'm going to finish off these ones because these all look good. But so that I don't miss out the order, I'm going to put a little gap in between them, so I know that this one right here that I'm going to put some extra attention to needs some extra attention. But overall, this thing looks pretty good. Here, give this a little spray. Hell yeah. Okay, so let's address this guy. It's got some rust on there. Let's get a more precise shot. Hell yeah. You can clean this up nice. Ooh, yeah, that's gonna come out nice. And then so we'll run some deoxit into the hole, right into the rag. Just go. There we go. That should clean it up. And so we'll take this rag, and we're just gonna take the screw and we're just gonna spin it. Like put some pressure into the rag and just keep spinning the screw. Just keep spinning it like you're screwing it into the rag, right? And then so we've got all of that just came off of the screw. And we're doing better. Not quite there yet, but we're doing better. So spray a little bit more deoxit, and so we're just gonna like kind of go back and forth. Instead of screwing, we're just gonna go back and forth. Okay, and then we're gonna screw and unscrew, a little bit of back and forth. Just kind of clean it out. There we go. Oh, boom. That looks primo. Okay, so I'm going to spray it again with some deoxit, but I'm just going to, instead of cleaning it, well, actually, screw it. It doesn't hurt. Do it one more time. This was the rusty one, so might as well give it a little, but it feels great now. Yeah, it was a little bit. There we go. So this should go right back on, but I'm going to give it a little spray again. Wow, I'm like leaking. I need to get more of these. This stuff is great. Not endorsed or anything like that, but seriously, this stuff, deoxit, awesome. I use it on a lot of things. For a long time, too. Like, they've been around for a long time. There we go. Oh my god, that feels buttery smooth. I just drove the screw all the way through and all the way out, and that is buttery smooth. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run it all the way in, bring it back out. There we go. And we're going to wipe it one more time. And so the goal with that was we're kind of trying to clean the threads on the inside of the saddle there. Using the piece that we just cleaned. We got a little bit off. Okay, now that looks great. I can look inside of there. The threads look steel again. They looked black before. They look steel now. Which is great. Why is this thing so leaky? Okay, I'll just let it leak into there. There we go. Just need a little bit in there. So we're going to screw it back in. Screw it all the way. Just so it reaches the surface. Wipe it off with the rag and put it right back in the lineup. Boom! Look at that. All those saddles cleaned up. Real nice. This hardware all cleaned up. Real nice. And so we're going to use some nice lubricant. And so on the bottom side, just going to go ahead and run this on there. Just little dabs of lubricant on each one. It'll seem like a lot, but it'll kind of just, you'll just kind of wipe it off. And this stuff is super thin. Usually lubricants, or like aftermarket lubricants, or not aftermarket, but whatever, lubricants that you find, they usually like seep, they're made to go into threads, especially something like this. This one's like one of those more penetrative lubricants. It's an older one, just had it for a long time. So yeah, I'm just letting it run through, but anything really works, just something really wet. You don't want to use obviously like a dry lubricant. So what I'm doing, so I'm just taking my other rag and just dabbing it just to kind of dry that off. And so all of this hardware, these looked actually pretty good. Actually, yeah, I'm just going to do a dab down each one of these holes. And let's see. Little dab, little dab, little dab. Dab, little dab. There we go. Very nice. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit for a second because so the lube that I put on there is just seeping down in there, and so I've got all these set up. So now let's go back to this. Let's get this ready. So we had that rag that we had folded over, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to take it and like unfold it one time and fold it over all that oily goodness so that you could use the dry side to kind of just wipe off the excess. But if you haven't noticed, like this was, all of that extra got seeped right in there. Actually, yeah, let me snap a picture of that real quick. It's looking good. That's rosewood for you. Yeah, okay, let's wipe that on. Get in there, we're getting a good polish. And so now we're gonna go like this, and I wanna go up and down, I wanna go horizontal, we're also rubbing this rag is friction, and that friction is the final polish for these frets, as well as drying out some of the excess oil. We're going in and finalizing our polish on the frets. Our frets are supposed to feel like glass
when the strings are bending or doing anything, it's supposed to feel like absolute glass. So that's the goal with polishing frets, and it makes you play better, which will make you feel better, and that's the goal of playing guitar. You don't play guitar to feel crappy about like guitar and feel like you're fighting your instrument.
Today I'm just going to use Dario 10 gauges. I'm just going to, he requested 10 gauge, so that's what's going on. I'm just happy it wasn't 9 gauge. There we go. So I get all the strings in because honestly I don't want to, do the whole thing and then repeat that 6 times. So just get all 6 strings in, stick them in, and repeat the same process 6 times in a row, so that overall, like each step at a time, like all 6 of them, boom, just bang it out. So the process right now, earlier I already straightened all of these to get ready for this moment. So we'll just stick them in, pull it nice and tight. This one has locking tuner, so this one, just pull it in, make it nice and tight on the back. And I like to bend the slack upward. And let's see. Okay, we'll go in. Tighten that one up. Repeat this one. See, and this one's nicer too, because on this one, even though there's a little string tree right here, the last 3 tuners, or the high 3 tuners, the treble side, they're lower than the bass side ones. So they're like already pre-designed to like take the string in a certain angle to create the string tension that you want right there. So that's pretty cool. I can dig that. I can dig that. Here, I'm not even double checking these. Yeah, there we go. You see that one is. Okay, we're going to tighten this one too. I'm going to tighten this one and stick it right under the string tree. And we'll do the last one. Let me double check it actually. Yeah, okay. We'll just tighten that one up. Okay, and then I like to go through and just make sure that they're all nice and tight. Okay, and then now we can just go through and tighten them all. I don't do a whole lot. Okay, got us like, I don't think it needs a high tension spring. I think we're just going to use a regular one, and I'm going to put it right in the middle there. So, but I'm going to change this order though, and that's kind of like a big deal. So we're just going to take one out, put it right back in. Oh, here we go. Take this one out, put that right back in. There we go. And we're going to put this one in. Son of a bitch. There we go. This one's a regular, just Fender OEM one. Nice and shiny amongst all the dark one, the Floyd Rose one. And then so the other one's a high tension. Here, actually, this would be a good chance to talk about that. So Floyd Rose has like their own like proprietary ones, and so they have these high tension and these like medium tension ones. So the red ones are high tension, black is like medium tension, and then these silver ones are just like Fender OEM style springs, just in case you're wondering. And the reason being is because Floyd Rose, some of them only have 3 slots, so you can't put an extra spring on there without like doing something weird like drilling a hole. Some of them do have 5 slots, but some of them don't. Some of them only have the 3 slots. So what do? You use higher tension strings. If you're running like heavier gauge strings and all that stuff, like stuff I do, what would you do? Well, you need heavier tension springs. So that's what I have here. They work great, actually. I was a little skeptical at first, And then I put them on a few guitars, and I put them on a couple of my guitars in the past, and they're great. They work fine. They do exactly as advertised. Nothing special, no bells or whistles. It's just a slightly higher tension spring. No big deal. Okay, so we added another spring. That's going to be a lot better. I'm assuming this guy doesn't use the trem a lot, but either way, I don't want it like super cranked down. I want him to be able to use it. So now that we added that extra spring, we can actually loosen these guys a little bit. It was my primary concern before. It was just screwed in so far. It didn't really need to be screwed in that much. It just needed an extra spring. There we go. That seems pretty good. So, real quick, this is a last touch. You gotta like level out the fingers. So, there we go. Let's put it on here. Maybe like to come up. I think that's right. Awesome. Okay, guitar is ready. Guitar is ready. Guitar is ready. Oh, yes. It's ready.